Our fourth and final training session. Today's session is going to be going over diverse and inclusive messaging. Just a quick agenda for the day. As you'll see, we're starting off going over diversity in engineering, then we'll take a look at some statistics. After that, we'll take a short discussion, and finally we'll go over some interventions and best practices for in the classroom. However, just before that, I'd like to take a short moment for our values. For today's value moment, I'd like to share an example of human-focused teamwork. This example takes place, from my perspective, in first year university, and was a very humbling experience for me. During a design team project, I was nominated group leader via my group, and this is my first time being in a position of power, quote unquote. So I took it upon myself to plan every meeting, and I was doing too much of the work myself, in the sense I was working myself too hard. And while this was working academically, it was definitely taking a toll on my mental health, and things only got worse as deadlines came up. However, this is when everything changed, as some of the people in my group members were my friends, and they noticed how stressed I was getting. So they actually had to force me to sit down during one of these meetings and tell me you're working too hard, what's going on? And here is when I realized what it meant to do human-focused teamwork versus objective-focused teamwork. And I had been completely focusing on the objectives instead of the human focused teamwork. Once I made this connection, I immediately apologized to my group, and I actually asked them if I could step down as group leader. However, they didn't let me, and it was a good thing they didn't let me, as it forced me to grow my leadership skills quite a bit, and we ended up having an amazing group project. So now that's done. This is our team. It's under individuals. So diversity is being invited to the party, and inclusiveness is being asked to dance. This is just a short little metaphor that can very easily highlight the difference between diversity and inclusiveness. However, right now we're going to go over a bit more of just diversity. So when we're talking about diversity regarding STEM outreach, there are two main things we want to focus on, which is the goals in the classroom, as well as social psychology. So social psychology is the study of how an individual's thoughts, feelings, or actions are affected. This, along with decades of research, has proven that diversity is a vital ingredient to fostering a classroom's positive discussion. And we believe that this is what sets us apart from other organizations. So why would we focus on diversity in engineering? Well, there are many reasons we would. For example, diverse teams bring very varied perspectives, leading to more creative and effective solutions to engineering challenges. In addition to this, having students understand that diverse user needs helps engineers design products that cater to a wider audience and therefore a wider market. Diversity also fosters an environment where innovative ideas thrive and driving technological advancements. For example, seatbelts used to only be for males like me. However, once pregnant ladies started driving as well, they need to change that. It's a great example. And also, embracing diversity just creates a more inclusive workplace, improving team morale and collaboration, which overall boosts productivity and satisfaction of the group. However, some things are not as good and will not boost productivity and can often harm it. These things often are stereotypes, which can often be seen as harmless jokes or comments. However, these jokes or comments can be a large contributing factor to long-standing racial and gender gaps in academic performance. And this isn't good. So what are the consequences of this? Stereotypes trigger negative thoughts and emotions, causing individuals to feel like they don't belong, and that's never okay in the classroom. Everyone has a place in engineering. A lack of diversity also reduces the working memory capacity and performance, leading to lower engagement and retention. It can also seriously affect one's mental health and as well as their physical health. It can also sadly turn into self-conscious thoughts, where the one would the person can undermine their own performance and their own thoughts for no reason, which is really hard to hear. So, what can we learn from these sad facts? Well, what we can learn is there's a direct correlation between a classroom with a low stereotype threat and a classroom which fosters an effective learning experience. And this is nice to hear. However, some things that aren't as nice is that only 19.8 of newly licensed engineers are women. And what's even worse is that only 0.73 of employed engineers identify as Indigenous. These numbers are simply sad to look at, and they may seem impossible to change. However, huge efforts are being put into place, such as the 30-30 initiative, which aims to have the percentage of newly licensed engineers as females up to 30% by 2030. A lot of people think that's not going to happen, which is really sad to hear. So we just need to push harder, I think, is my solution to that. But this raises another question, which is, if only 20% of the licensed engineers are women, what's happening to stop this? And well, a bigger question, what's stopping female students going into engineering in post-secondary? Well, a sad fact is that around 95% of female students going into engineering out of high school already have engineers in their lives, such as a family member or a close friend. This is why talking to every single kid about engineering is mission critical. Another example of this, I'll pass it over to Sarah for the wiki pipeline example, which I'm sure you may have seen.
It was really important to us to share some of the stats behind why we do what we do at Engineers of Tomorrow. And thank you, Adam, for sharing the very low number of newly licensed women in engineering, and also the Indigenous number. I just want to call that out and not skip over it. I think, how can we ever make improvements in communities where we don't have those communities represented? And how can we work on things like infrastructure if we don't have people from the community directly involved in those projects? And so diversity is so critical in our profession. And then just to spotlight a little bit of the information that we wanted to share with you about women, especially the number of women going into post-secondary education around engineering specifically, not the other sciences, really specifically engineering, has only gone up by 3.5% in 2 decades, despite all of the 30 by 30 work. And I want to call out that some of the best ways that we can encourage girls to choose engineering is to be mentors and role models to them. And making sure that we don't skip by the E in STEM, make sure that we don't only share the S, the T, and the M, but also, what does engineering mean? Because engineers, as we all know, are so much more than just, math and science superstars. We're really good at building teams. We're really good at planning projects, at communicating. And these are skills that so many people have and don't necessarily realize in elementary and high school that they can apply those skills when they move on to post-secondary. So it's really important to get started early. If you've never seen this leaky pipeline before, I just want to draw attention to the center section of it, the third piece where it mentions grade 12 physics. This is a graphic that was designed by Mary Wells at the University of Waterloo. And she really calls out in this how grade 12 is this really important course that if you don't take it, you will never get into an engineering program in post-secondary. It's kind of that very important single course that we all need to get into engineering courses in university. And the numbers, as we start from the far left, that shows everyone takes grade 10 science, it's 50-50 male to female. Everyone in Canada has to take that course to graduate from high school. And by the time they get to grade 12, so many less girls are enrolling in that course. So we go from 100,000 total students to 25,000 and only 33. And like the ratio of men to women in that is 33 girls to 66 boys. And so if girls never take that, they'll never make it through. And so that just really drives that point that it's really important to us as EIRs to be in the classroom, mentor those girls, and show them that there is a place for them in engineering and that they have potential in the profession. So we're going to send out these slides if you want to use these details and share these with your friends and colleagues and even in the classroom to just emphasize how important this work is. Thanks, Adam, for the chance to share that with everyone.
Oh, that was really nice to hear. Thank you. Okay, so what we're gonna do next is we're gonna split up into 5 different breakout rooms or such, and we're gonna discuss these sensitive topics among us. We're gonna do this in order to try and remove the stigma around anything, as well as two, trying to dispel any misconceptions you may have among the stereotypes. So we'll break into around about 5, maybe 4 breakout rooms, and then you guys can discuss among yourselves these 3 questions on screen. Sorry, forgot to mention that.
I'm setting up the breakout rooms now.
Yeah, so like think about times in your life when you've experienced stereotype threat and where you've felt like diversity and inclusion hasn't been front and center in things that you've dealt with in your career or even back in school, and what held you back. And then think about how what you did with that, what you do with that information to drive you forward and stay with the work that is really important to you that you want to do.
Awesome. Okay, here we go. You should be getting a message. Opening all the rooms.
Had a good chance to talk a little bit, stretch the thinking muscles, because now I'm gonna put every single one of you on the spot and ask you guys, what can you do? I'm gonna open the floor to anyone who feels confident enough to answer this question. It's a very broad question, meaning there's not really any wrong answer.
Michael's raised his hand. I don't know if you can see it, Adam, because I'm the host.
I see that now. Yes, Michael, were you wanting to say something?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself.
Yeah.
Last year was my first year with the EIR program. I had grade 2s, 3s, and 4s, which was really interesting because my initial thought was they're young and what can you do with them? But I learned you can really do a lot. But the one thing I was going to say is, and I think somebody mentioned this previously too, after probably even just the first session, I really went out of my way to engage the more shy students, and in particular, that tended to be a lot of girls. Not necessarily all girls, but a lot of them. And even just making them feel comfortable to, just take a stab or make a guess at an answer at a question that I had asked to the class. And then if they didn't have an answer, just being able to say, that's fine, no problem, there'll be other opportunities, and just getting them to warm up to the idea that this isn't something really foreign and strange, went a long way. And in just a couple of weeks, they were no longer, shy when it was my day to do our thing at class. So a lot of times the good benefits can come out of really simple, small changes.
That's really nice to hear. And I 100% agree with you with what you're saying. Okay. No one else feels comfortable sharing. I'll continue. Give it a couple more seconds.
Hi, this is Aisha. I
Hi.
have hello. So I would say, similar to the other speaker, I would say that I tend to, I would say, well, playfully pick on the girls. I know I had a grade 7, 8 class a year before last, and there was a group of girls that were very quiet and shy, didn't seem to want to really participate. They seemed like they gave off that vibe that, like, yeah, we don't belong here kind of thing, or this isn't our thing. And so I went over and started talking to them, and they said, well, we're not really good at math and stuff. And I was like, yeah, so I'm not either. And with that kind of like gave them, they were able to see themselves in me, to say that, there is not a particular stereotype what an engineer looks like, and also that it's okay to kind of explore, and you may not be great at it, but if you have the passion you can still do it. And so every time we had any kind of questions, I'd always pick on them first. And I says, okay, my girl's in the corner. Or I'd kind of I'll give their little group a name. And I says, okay, so, you know, Fantastic Four in the back, right? It kind of broke the ice, got them a little more used to being seen. And that seemed to help because, you know, the extroverts, and mostly they're boys, right? The extroverts were not a problem. I'd kind of like address them as well, but I wanted to make sure that I wasn't ignoring the quiet ones, and which to the other speaker's point was normally the girls.
That's so nice to hear. And I'm sounding like a broken record, but I 100% agree with you. In addition to
Aisha,
that,
I love
Oh.
that tip, Aisha. I do the same thing. I say, I'm not great at math either. I think that goes a long way. Someone else has their hand up.
Dora, I see your
Dora?
hands raised.
Dora, I think you're on mute.
I think you're on.
Sorry, I thought I had unchecked that. Sorry, this is really great that we get these girls are excited about engineering, but we have a bit of an issue, which is role models and how the workplace, you know, how those, in society or in the workplace, like how are female engineers integrated, and also the visibility of those female engineers, because, you know, there is not a lot of that. There are not a lot of role models in these girls. You know, yes, it's really good that it's like, let's get excited about engineering, but then they don't have any reference points. They don't have really, and when it gets out there, it's not that easy. When I told, like, and this started from an early age, like I was always interested in science, you know, and everyone was telling me that's not a job for a woman. You know, and there is still a bit of that. There is still a bit of that, you know, there is not enough. And okay, we have to first get them excited about it, be able to get them going into the engineering stream. But we also have to have the society well, you know, like, you know, one of the group members that I had was mentioning that they had to set goals at their company to integrate more women into their part of their staff. And yeah, and we need to see more of that, because unfortunately, I don't think we have enough. And there's several constraints even for a woman. Like I talk, you know, for myself, not all, you know, my experience is that I had to work twice as hard as a man to be able to gain the same reputation as the men in the industry. And it's not fair. Like, it's just, you know, and but this is all, you know, I know we have to take small steps. It's all about, you know, building all of this. But also I would just like to mention that, you know, sometimes there's the need to have more role models, and especially females, and more visibility, and, you know, all of that is important as well.
Can I speak to that?
Yes.
So Dara, just there's a few things that popped into my head as you were talking. I totally agree and get what you're saying. I, you know, had some similar or relatable experiences myself. I can tell you, and Adam mentioned it briefly, the work that Engineers Canada and the provincial regulators are doing for the 30 by 30 initiative. They're taking a systemic approach. So they're looking at it by what can we do in the K-12 system? What can we do in the post-secondary system? What can we do for early career support? What can we do to work with employers? And they had their conference in May, just this past May, and I happened to be there, and it was specifically targeting the employers piece. And it was really encouraging to see how many employers were there, were asking good questions, we're starting to think about this. So all that to say, like, we can't boil the ocean, right? Like, we are going to do our best to play in our part of the system, and that's the K-12 system. However, what I will say is that sort of anecdotally, I can't say that. What we have observed through the work of taking kind of field working engineers, real live engineers, and talking to them about how they're going to be more inclusive in the classroom for the students, some of those engineers take that same approach or some of those learnings and they bring that back to their workplace to some degree. They're like, oh, I never thought about it that way before. So it's kind of a interesting almost experiment, I'll say, on helping everyone in the engineering community. And I mean, in terms of role models, like we have lots of amazing men on this call today who can be incredible role models for the girls too. Like Adam's going to go through some of the recommended methods and interventions that you can use in the classroom, regardless of your gender. So they can take that. And it's funny how some of it works in the workplace as well. So there's all these different ways that we're trying to do it, but I love that you are thinking that way and that you brought it up today. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Rebecca. Yeah, exactly what I was about to say next is about outreach interventions. So as Aisha, you were saying, being relatable is perfect. And as Michael, as you were saying, promoting a growing mindset, all amazing. And as well as sharing the social aspect of your work are all great examples of reaching out to the students through STEM. In addition to those, maintaining a high standard and promoting diversity are like, those other 3 ways are good. These 2 are like the main 2 ways that you can show students that you're not judging or disregarding them.
Can I just add
But,
something?
oh,
Adam, on your last slide, you had talk about the social importance of your work. Something I didn't mention that I would hate to leave this call without mentioning it to everyone is that so many girls, and I think you all know this, but I think it's important to remember, so many girls when they're in high school, they're told, hey, you know, you're good at math, you're good at science, you should be a doctor or a nurse or work in healthcare because then you can impact your community. Of course, healthcare is a wonderful profession, very rewarding. But I hope that those girls will also learn from having an engineer in their classroom that engineers do work in your community as well. And you can have a direct impact on people and the community as an engineer. And so I hope that girls, when they see that and learn that from all of you, that they'll think about engineering in addition to health sciences as an option for them. So just wanted to call that out because so many girls do end up kind of pushed in that direction. That was my story anyway. And it is an opportunity for them to go into engineering too and have a similar kind of impact. Thanks, Adam.
that's lovely to hear. And the next thing I was going to say is these are amazing outreach interventions, although some of you may look at them as idealistic values, which I'm going to say next I think is a bit silly, no offense. What I'm going to go over next is practices. Now, practices can be anything from like learning to play a guitar to taking a moment to reflect by yourself and reflect what's going on in your life right now. These practices are what you do every day. And the reason I bring it up with so much importance is that the practices that you do and that you demonstrate in the classroom directly reflect on the students who look up to you. And this is where you become the role model and they will do exactly what you do because you're very cool, an engineer. This is why choosing what practices we demonstrate is so important. Some of these examples of excellent practices are probably not the first thing you'd think of when you think of demonstrating your engineering practices. This is because most of these practices don't rely on your engineering experience, but rather force you to take a deeper look at yourself and how you present yourself. That's why it can be hard for us as engineers because we teach ourselves to think a certain way, sometimes to step back and learn to think a different branch out. It can be quite challenging, and that's why it's important to practice it before getting up to the classroom.
Adam, can I just add something before you go on to the next slide? I wanted to just call everyone's attention to the one best practice there of identifying important dates. This particular intervention we added in a couple of years ago after a story from one of our very own EIR volunteers who had been going into the classroom for years. And she used to do an activity that involved food. And so it was something around, I don't know if they made something, or at the end of the activity anyways, they were allowed to enjoy these treats. And what happened one year is she noticed that some of the students weren't eating the food, or they were having to miss out on that. And so she didn't realize that she was doing the activity at a time where there were certain students in the class that were doing a fast, because of their culture and their religion. And so she made note of that. She learned from that. She used the engineering design process in her own creating her own engineering classroom experiences. And so she made sure the following year that when she did that activity, because it was kind of a favorite, I think, she was aware of what some of those important dates were, so that she could do it at a time where everyone could be involved. So I really like that story, just really stuck in my head, because I was like, oh yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that, because that's not, that's my own, biases. It's just not something I would have ever entered my mind. So I wanted to just share that with everyone. And then also just mention, I threw in the chat a couple of resources there. One of them, the first one was Engendering Success in STEM. And so if you look around on that site, there's some super interesting research that is happening. And this is where we are pulling these best practices, these interventions from. Like, these are science-backed recommendations that we're putting in your hands. So feel free to explore that. And then I also put in the chat, for anyone interested in finding out more about the 30 by 30 work that's happening, I put that link in there as well. Sorry, Adam.
No. Thank you very much for that. That was good to know. Those links are both great reads. I've read them both. Finally, I'd just like to say a special thanks to all of our funding providers, because we wouldn't have been able to do this without you. And this impact is astounding, and I'm so happy to be a part of it. Finally, we have our upcoming events, this is the last training session. You guys made it, congrats. All that's left is the EIR program kickoff. And unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be there for that, because I have to go back to school. But Sarah and Rebecca are both going to be there, and I'm sure they're going to take amazing care of you, because they took probably the best care of me of any co-op I've done so far. So
Wait, Adam, are you saying you don't want to give up a time on your Saturday to come back and join us for the kickoff?
I wasn't aware it was on a Saturday. I mean, I might have to.
Adam, thank you so much for delivering wonderful training to everyone. You did a great job. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys all for
Awesome.
coming.
We're
really
happy to
fun for me.
hang around here for a while and just talk more about any of the information Adam presented today, or if anyone has any other questions, now's your time. You've got us live.
I'll just add something to the last slide that Adam shared, bringing this all full circle. We talked a few weeks ago about telling your engineering story. Definitely think about that in a way to present your very authentic self. And I think that goes a long way in diversity and inclusion too, is just to really be yourself and be human focused. And I want to just offer up, if you want to talk through your engineering story, practice it on us, send a presentation our way to take a look at. We're happy to do that. And Adam's going to be sending out some slides that came from one of our longtime EIRs, Megan. She put together a slide deck on how to make it into a video. So we'll be sending out a couple slides on how to do that and how we can support you in making your engineering story a little bit of a produced short video, which could be really fun too. So look forward to that.
And we'll help with Dora's concern of like getting more. We need to get those stories out there. So we encourage you to be part of that initiative. We'd really appreciate it.
Yeah. In addition to that, watch out for your emails. There'll be an email coming from me, and it's going to be all of the information regarding the training sessions. So our LinkedIn, Discord, everything like that, library of lessons, link to all the slide decks as well as the recordings, everything you'll ever need. So if you're ever having a struggle during the session, you can just keyword type training and the email should come straight up. And then that gives you all of the access to our resources.
Thanks, Adam. So like Rebecca said, we're going to hang out here for a little while for Q&A. If you don't have any questions, if you're feeling really good, by all means, you're welcome to drop off. But we will stay on for just a little while. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a question.
Thank you.
So I just want to know what's like a start off with the start's gonna be September 23rd, right? First start, yeah.
Well, that'll be our kickoff. A lot of people find that they don't necessarily make it into the classroom in September because of busy schedules in school. So if you go into the classroom your first time, maybe around October, that would be entirely appropriate, but definitely talk to the teacher that you're assigned to and work with them to figure out how to get in there.
Okay, so basically the kickoff day is just like on what's the kickoff day for? What is this for, by the way? So
It's just to bring everyone back together and kind of make sure that everyone has the resources and information started.
okay. And then but
Yeah.
is it Zoom, right? Is it online, right? So
It's online, yeah.
okay, because if there's somewhere else, I have to come, so that's why I just want to know. So
It'll be online.
yeah, okay, thank you.
And it'll be recorded as well. And it's not required, Sean. It's totally optional, but we've just found over the years, because there is such a gap between when everybody signs up for the program and then it's like summertime and there's teachers are on break or people are taking vacation, to getting things started in September, that it's been good to have like this, we call it our kickoff, just to, like Sarah said, bring everybody back together and kind of get the juices flowing again.
Okay. And also I have a question about that. It's gonna be, should I have to email to the professor that I get assigned or not? Or no? Because I don't think they're gonna answer it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can take the lead on emailing the teacher.
You may
Okay.
find, Sean, that over the summer holidays, the teachers aren't very responsive. They don't necessarily check their email over the summer. So if you email them and you don't hear back until September, that's pretty normal. So don't worry too much about it if they're not writing back today. But if you don't hear from them in September, let us know and we can help facilitate a connection.
All right, thank you for help today, though. Actually,
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming.
also I didn't attend like previous 2 sessions, so but I watched the recording. But does the session always have a attendance, right? So because I didn't attend 2 sessions like the last 2 weeks, so
I'll make note that you said that, Sean. We know you were there. Thank you for that.
yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, it's just us and Bubbles, note taker.
I'm kicking Bubbles out right now.
Oh, I was about to say, we need to start climbing Everest. Next task, climb Everest.
You're done.
Then Kilimanjaro.